Welcome once again to your update from the city of New Hope, taping this on October 14th with the mayor, Kathi Hemken. Welcome, Mayor. How are you today?
Hi, Dave. I'm just fine. Just want to comment on the picture behind me. I took that off my deck and the moon was just perfect.
Mhm.
So you get to see that for a couple weeks, I think.
Yes, and it is getting darker earlier, so probably took that rather early to get something
I
like that.
did.
All right, let's get into some things happening in the city, and one of the biggest is the election is upon us here, and things about to change as far as how the absentee ballots go. Remind us about that process, Mayor.
Well, I understand that Hennepin County has sent out over 2,000 applications for absentee balloting, and we've had about 468 actually come into New Hope to register and vote. So right now, if you go into City Hall between 8 and 4:30, you fill out your ballot, you put it in a brown envelope, and then that brown envelope goes in another envelope with your name on it, and then again, they check to make sure that you're a registered voter. And then that envelope will be open, that brown envelope will be open after the 18th of October and inserted in the machine. So the other part of this is after the 18th of October, you can actually go into City Hall and you can insert your own ballot. You won't have to do all that stuff with the envelopes. You just insert that. And of course, if you don't want to vote early and you just want to go to your polling place, you should have gotten a postcard in the mail to tell you where your polling place is. You can go on the Secretary of State's website and find your polling place. Or you can always call City Hall and ask them, and they'll tell you, given the address, they'll tell you where you're going to be voting. So lots of reasons to vote, not very many reasons not to vote.
Very good. And newhopemn.gov, the city's website, and that can connect you to that information from the Secretary of State, so you know where to vote if you choose to do it on November 5th. Now to community development, a lot happening here. Let's begin with presentations at a recent council meeting of some nice looking stones. What happened?
Well, they're boulders actually, and they seem like they weigh a ton. So these are the awards for the Rave Award, and it's a big stone about the size of half of a football. And they're engraved so they can put them out in their gardens or wherever they want to put them out on their lawns. So those will be awarded on the 14th on Monday night at the meeting. If you want to see the pictures, you can go online to see the Rave Award pictures, or you can go into City Hall. But they're just amazing, the things that people are doing with their yards.
We have talked a lot about 3840 Oregon and some of the work happening there as that transitions from a home to the park. But the weather is playing a little bit of havoc on some of the plans. What's happening, or I guess not happening?
Oh, yeah. You know, we really thought this would be good training for the fire department, but it's been so dry that they canceled the one on the 4th and the one on the 12th. Just too dry to do this. Unless it rains really, really hard in the next week or so, I don't think they'll do that. They'll just have the demolition team come in and demolish the property. And then after that's done, we'll sell that property to a developer. And I'm sorry, we won't sell the property. It'll just become part of the park.
Mhm.
And we'll put some grass seed down. They did move the trees, though, that were on the land, and they moved a lot of the other plants. Some of them went to the golf course because we lost so many trees there.
Right.
So we tried to save as much as we could.
Here's another event that recently happened. This was at Linus Welding Training, a new business in town, and you were there to cut a ribbon. Tell us a little bit more about that event and that business.
Well, I'm excited about this. So it's called, they use initials on this actually. It's called LWT,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on at 4,000 Winnetka. What it is a training school to teach kids or train people to be welders. From what I understand, it's about a 16-week course. I don't know what it costs. We're going to put the phone number up for you. It seems to me if you don't want to go to college and you want to get trained to have a nice job that is really well paying and sought after,
Mm-hmm.
this is the place to go. They'll tell you how much it costs. It's got to be a lot cheaper than a 4-year degree. And also, I know that they have financial aid. So just give them a call. They're right on Winnetka and 40th. Might be able to help.
Very good. There you see that number, 763-270-0512, if you want to find out more information. Now under community development to scattered site housing, a lot of homes in the works here. We're going to start at 5010 or 5410 Zealand Avenue, and we've got one of many that are getting some agreements put together. What's happening on this property?
So typically what happens is city staff is contacted by the owner of the property. We don't take property on eminent domain. They contact us, and then staff and the owner of the property negotiate a price. And then the next thing that happens is it comes to the EDA, which is basically the city council, and we vote whether or not to accept that offer, that we're going to pay that. So that will come on the 14th, and if we agree to do that, then they'll do the closing on that. They're expecting to close sometime in October, end of October maybe, and that's just for the lot. And then after that's done, this is a demolition and a rebuild. So after that's done, then the demolition contract, and the routine takes forever, but it will get done.
Speaking of demolition, let's go to the 5400 block of Virginia. A couple properties there, and it looks like demolition is done, and now move on to the next step.
So demolition is done on those two properties. So the next step is to actually close on the sale of the lot, because we sell the lot to the developer. We'll get some plans from the developers. We'll pick a developer that we want. We're trying to use different developers so that all the houses don't look the same. So we'll pick the developer, whether it's a rambler or a two-story or a split entry, and then we will sell the lot to that developer, and then they'll start building. All this takes a long time. Those lots will be closed sometime in latter November. So it's not going to happen yet this year to have rebuilds.
Next property is 5692 Boone Place, and this one is at the very end of the process, about ready to be sold, or maybe sold for a amazing price.
Well, it is an amazing price. So when we bought this property, the property was valued at $94,000. It just closed last week for $496,000. Huge difference on that property. They had to move the driveway so it's facing Boone Circle instead of Boone Avenue. So they actually closed on that last week, and people will be moving in. A lot of times when they close, they're not totally done with the house. Sometimes they have to do yard work and stuff like that. But they close, and sometimes the people move in right away. Sometimes they just close and they just wait till the other work is done. But that house is closed on, and so we added $400,000 to our tax base on that one.
Let's move up to the 7900 block of 50th, and we've got some purchase agreements in the works here on two properties.
So both those properties are in the process of being done, but they've both sold. So the one at 7901, that's the one right on the corner. That one's going to close the end of November. I don't have a sales price on that. And the interior one, that's going to close on the 23rd of October. That one is actually further along. But if you drive by, you'll notice that the landscaping isn't in yet, but they want to close on that as soon as they can. So those two houses, if you remember, there was one house sitting on that, and it was a double lot. So we split that lot, put those two houses there. I'm guessing both of them are well over $450,000.
Final stop is 8024 50th, just down the block. And again, we have a home that is finishing up through the process here. So getting ready to have some work done.
It is. So we're going to close on that on the lot on the 22nd of November. We have sold that lot to Great Buy Homes. So after it's closed, then the demolition teams come in, clean it up. Well, I think the demolition team on this one has been there already. So we'll just close on the lot. Don't know that anything's going to happen yet this year because it's going to be late in the year.
Final community development item is the next time the business networking group gets together. And as we mentioned last week, it's going to be some great fun. When and where do they meet?
November 6th at 2:00, and they're meeting at Can Do Canines. That's 9440 Science Center Drive. So it was a big old empty warehouse, and now it's just beautiful inside. So we'll get a little tour of the inside. We'll learn a little bit about Can Do Canines, but this is open to the public, and so it's like any business networking group. You bring some business cards to pass around, but a bonus on this one, there might be some dogs there that you can look at.
Sounds like fun. All right, let's hop ahead to the police department, talk about a few things happening there. One is a recent discussion over at Cooper High School. Give us a little details on what happened.
We might hear the word MAC, M-A-C. That's the Multicultural Advisory Commission. And there's two of them in New Hope. One is for adults, And the second one is with kids at Cooper High School. So my police chief and the community police partnership meets with these kids at the high school just to learn about what they're interested in, what we can do to help more at the high school, where the kids might be going, anything we can do to help these kids with their learning process. And the adult ones, we get that feedback from the adults on what they think we can better do to be more involved in the community.
Well, we've been following the work of the Citizens Police Academy as they travel through their learning process. Where were they this last week and what did they learn?
Well, I'm not sure where they were exactly, but I know they did learn about domestic assault calls, what that entitles and how that goes, actually. And then they went to the Hennepin County Dispatch Center to see how those calls come in and what they do with that. Really interesting stuff, and everybody that's in that academy just loves it. Now, this is a free program. I think they run 1 or 2 a year. If you get a chance to sign up, it's really, really valuable, really eye-opening.
People seem to enjoy it. One final note to pass along. Officer Callio busy helping out the community with something to do with driving behind a wheel. What was that?
Well, the defensive driving class, he teaches that along with all the other things he's always doing. So that class, if you take it, I think you can get a reduction on your car insurance. And so next time it's offered, and look in your booklet that you get, the Park and Rec book, that it tells you in there when the classes start and how much they cost.
All right, here's that last book that was out, and we're going to mention in just a minute here that there's a new one coming, but this one would have had that last information in it, so be looking for that. Let's go to Public Works, talk about some of the things that are happening right now. 'Tis the season of switchover for summer to fall, and they've got a lot of work to do, don't they?
They do. They're doing street sweeping along the areas that are going into the watershed. They're preparing the ball fields for winter. They put some stuff on them to get them prepared. They did some reprogramming of some water meters. They had a water meter check that they did at one of the apartment complexes, and they did some rain garden maintenance. Now, just to tell people, again, do not put your dumpster in the street. You have to make sure it's at your curb, and certainly don't rake your leaves in the street. You'll get a fine for that one. So when you bring your garbage down to the curb, make sure it's behind the curb, not in the street.
Good advice. Let's talk about the Public Works facility and some of the work happening there. They are inside and getting things really ready to roll, aren't they?
They are. I think you've got a picture of that. Big, big building, but big, big stuff going inside. So they've got all the stripes painted on there, and they know where each vehicle goes. So they moved our 2 snowplows in. Remember, we named those 2 snowplows Woby Snow Kenobi and Hans Snowlo, and they've got their names on their snowplow, and they're just proud as could be, sitting there waiting to go out and plow snow.
Well, let's hope they wait a little while, right?
I hope they wait a long while before they get out to do that.
One other Public Works item. We thought we were done talking about it, but no, we aren't. We've got a street that still needs a final coat of pavement, it sounds like.
I don't know how many coats of pavement they put on the street, but it seems like every week we talk about it. They did assure me that this was the final coat that's being put on, and that'll be done this week. And then they go to doing the restoration of the sod behind the curb. So I'm hoping we don't have to talk about 31st of Louisiana again.
Let's hope so. Okay, let's move to Park and Rec. A lot happening here, and the mayor is going to somehow tie Park and Rec and spam together. Mayor, go ahead. How do those two fit together?
Well, we have a group called Community Tripsters, and they go on extended trip places. Well, one of the things they did this time is they went to the Spam Museum in Austin. So I went down to the Spam Museum a couple years ago. What an eye-opener. And they talk about how Spam was made and why it was made for one of the World Wars, I think 2, to feed the troops. Well, they have something called the Spamettes, which is a singing group, and they have a Spam band, and you can get a Spam alarm clock and a Spam t-shirt and an oven mitt. And if it's got Spam on it, you can get it. I also found out that people putting in Hawaii on their wedding list, things they want for the wedding presents, they put Spam on there. and they get cases of spam as wedding presents.
Mhm.
Go figure.
Yep, who would have known? But good for the tripsters for heading down there and taking a little closer look.
Yeah.
Few other things that have been happening in Park and Rec. You had a lot of trick-or-treaters out, and you've got some final numbers on that. It was a huge event.
Huge event. So 220 kids participated in this. And this only happens if all kinds of people and businesses around New Hope, not only are they handing out candy, they're handing out just some information about their business. There were about 30 businesses that took part in this. And the kids go from booth to booth, pick up some candy, pick up some interesting information for their parents. And it's always a huge success. And of course, it gives the kids another reason to dress up in their Halloween costumes.
Great fun had by all. Well, we mentioned just a minute ago this booklet that was for fall. And speaking of Halloween, here's a couple Halloween folks on it. But they are already working on the winter book. And any early indication of what the picture will be?
No, but how scary is that? That they did the first draft of the winter one. And gee, the leaves haven't even fallen off the trees. But they tell me it takes a long time to get those books together because they have to get all the people that are participating in it. And they've got to get the fees and the time frames and the places where they're going to have it. So I guess it takes a long time, but just saying the word winter seems like, gee, kind of rushing the season. But
yes,
I guess
I would think so.
They're really not.
Getting people ready to sign up. Let's talk about the trees outside. You mentioned leaves a couple times, and we've got the city going through and looking at some boulevard trees and maybe trying to still get some in the ground.
Well, they are. You know, this is a good time to plant, except it's so dry. They're having a little trouble not planting them, but making sure they're watered properly. So you might see the water truck going around trying to water these. So they're going to continue planting at least for this week, depending a lot on the weather. Once it actually freezes, they don't want to plant anymore. Mm-hmm. So they'll be planting as many as they can, and if they don't get to all of them, they'll be in the spring.
Very good. A few quick notes on the Park and Rec facilities in town. First, the golf course, still opportunities to get out there and play, although don't play too late because it gets awfully dark, doesn't it?
It does. So leagues are done, and you can play during the day, but I can see the ninth green from my balcony, and there are people playing in the dark on that. They start like at 5:30, and now it's getting dark at 7, and I don't know how they could see their balls. But anyway, they are still playing. The other thing I found out is you can rent the clubhouse inside from mid-November to early March. And now's the time to do that if you're going to have a Christmas or a Thanksgiving party there, or even a New Year's Eve party there. This is the time to rent that. Also, if you want to rent the back patio for your graduation party next year, it's a good idea to get signed up on that as soon as you can, because that fills up pretty quickly. Both of them, you can bring in your own food. It's very inexpensive. You don't have to clean your house. And the inside very comfortably holds like 50 people. And the outside about the same, but you don't want to rent that in the cold. You can rent the inside.
Sounds like a great place to go. Let's go over to the ice arena. A lot happening there, plus opportunities now for open skating as usual. And this might be great for some of the kids being off during MEA.
So open skating is on Friday nights from 6:30 to 8, and on Sundays from 4 to 6. It's cost $6 to skate for that period of time. You can rent skates for $4, or if your skates are dull that you have, you can bring them in and get them sharpened. So that's going to be open. In the meantime, we've got all kinds of other things going on. The captain's practices from the 2 high school teams, our elite teams are practicing there. There's tournaments on and off, but this is kind of the shoulder season. So this is a good time, and with MEA coming, good time to get out there and skate.
You bet. Final note about the aquatic park. Again, that water is long gone, but there's still a few final things to be done. Something to do with a shed on the property now.
Well, like all things, we have more stuff than we need, always. So, or more stuff than we have room for. So they built a shed, and now staff is putting on the siding on the shed just to save a little money. They need to get that stuff out of the main area, and they're pretty much finalizing everything. So once that's on, we probably won't talk about the aquatics park much again until like February when they start hiring for the next season.
There we go. All right. Something that might tie that last group, Park and Rec, together with finance. And this is something we should let people know about. It's a credit card charge that's going to be coming on now, which seems to be a trend in a lot of businesses and cities. Tell us a little bit more about that, Mayor.
Well, it costs the city a lot of money to use a credit card. And when you get the points or whatever and that money back, it's got to come from somewhere. Where it comes from is from the city or the businesses that are using it. So starting on the 18th of October, I'm sorry, on the 14th of October, there will be a 3% charge on your credit card. So if you're charging something for $100, it'll be 3% of the $100 added on to that. If you don't want to pay that, you can pay in cash, you can pay in check, but this is for credit and debit cards. So just be aware of that's happening, and it's starting now.
All right, let's talk about a few things that are coming up in the city and a few things that have just happened. First one for your calendar, October 29th, the area police chiefs are getting together. Remind us again what this event is.
They have something called a community conversation with these 3 police chiefs, the Robbinsdale, Crystal, and New Hope. And the chiefs are there, or a captain or a lieutenant will be there. And basically, they'll give you a little update on what's happening in each of the cities. They'll talk a little bit about crime and how to prevent that. And then you can tell the police chiefs your concerns or just ask them questions. So this is 6:30 to 8. It's at Crystal Community Center. Usually there's a fairly good turnout. They have cookies and coffee and 3 police chiefs.
Another way the city's trying to connect with people is through coffee and conversations. Tell us a little bit about the last event and preview what might be coming up.
Well, this is my city manager, and either one of the council members, and I was at the last one. It's 8 to 9:30. It was at Hy-Vee. I did ask them if they would please tell me ahead of time instead of afterwards so that I can tell you and get more people there. This is a good place to go. Have a cup of coffee, talk to the city manager one-on-one, and just express your concerns or tell them they're doing a wonderful job, because they are.
All right. City Services Survey, we've talked a lot about that over time, and now it's the tabulation time, I understand.
So they quit taking those surveys the 1st of October. There were a few stragglers, and now they print them all out, all the comments, and they also start putting together the charts, and they'll present that to us probably in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how the public thinks the city's going. It's headed in the right direction. We'll all get to read all of the comments. We never know the names that are on them. So if you did put your name on them and your phone number, we won't see those phone numbers. We'll simply see the comments. And it gives us, the council, a chance to look at what people are thinking, and it also gives staff an idea of what they need to do better or what they're doing a really good job at.
Here's another date for your calendar. In fact, 2 events in one on October 24th. It all happens at City Hall. Mayor, what is the mix of fun things happening that day?
Oh, it'll just be fun for everybody. So from 5 to 7 inside City Hall, they'll have what's called City Days. They have tables set up where all the departments will be manning those tables, and they'll talk about what that particular department does. Now, the other thing they'll have is pictures that kindergartners colored with color crayons they got from the Human Rights Commission. And the color crayons are called Colors of Our World, and they're skin tones. And they ask the kids to take the color crayons and draw a picture of themselves and either their best friends or their parents or their caretakers. And we post all those pictures. So the parents can come with the kids, look at their pictures. They'll find them there all over City Hall. And then from 7 to 8, they can go outside, and there'll be police officers or police cars there. Some of the big trucks will be there. My car will be there. We'll just go from place to place collecting more candy. So it's trick or treat out in the parking lot from 7 to 8, and 5 to 7 inside where it's nice and warm, just seeing what's going on at City Hall.
Great. Yep. All at City Hall. So make sure you stop by. A few other final notes. The Leafs are changing, as we have talked about, and it might be a perfect time to get the camera out and get a picture of the Leafs or maybe the moon like the mayor has behind her there. Tell us about the photo contest.
So it's called In Focus, and you can go online to our website /InFocus to get all the rules. But we have 4 categories, a new one this year. So the categories are people, places, wildlife and nature, and the new categories, events and activities. So you can submit 1 photo for each of those four categories. They have to be in by the 31st of October. You'll have to submit them digitally, and that's why you can go online and it'll tell you how to do that. If that's too confusing, you can always call City Hall and ask someone, talk to somebody about the in photo, and they'll tell you exactly how to send those photos in. So then after all the photos are in, the residents can go look at those photos in November, vote on the People's Choice Award. Now they also have a under 18 category, and you can vote on that. You'll be able to vote online. You can see the photos online. You can vote at City Hall. So do vote, and if nothing else, go look at them. You have to either live, go to school, or work in New Hope to be a part of this. And all of the pictures must be taken in New Hope. So last year, some of the pictures, I looked at them and I said, no, I don't know where that is in New Hope. So I went on a little scouting trip and found where it is. There's some really stuff in New Hope.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of the contest as well, is get people to know what may be right next door. So again, newhopemn.gov/infocus. You can find out more about getting involved in that contest. Something coming up for maybe some early holiday shopping, that is at Cooper High School. What's the big event that's coming back once again?
Well, the Cooper Craft Fair. The Women of Today took that over from the parents of Cooper kids. And the whole idea was that a large portion of the money actually goes to scholarships for Cooper High School. That'll happen again this year. That's going to be on the 26th. It'll be in the high school from 9 to 3. You can also have lunch there. The lunch ladies make sandwiches, have soup. You can get donuts and coffee there and go through all these booths. There are hundreds of booths there. So it's a really fun thing, a lot of craft stuff that you can buy, and just fun to go around and look at all that. So that's the 26th at Cooper High School.
Very good. Couple final notes, putting a wrap on the Fire Prevention Week, which was last week. And again, remind us, Mayor, what was the theme? And you've got a few fire tidbits for us here.
Well, I always like to look up something interesting. So Fire Prevention Week has been going on since 1925. It's actually the longest program in the United States. And it started in 1871 with a big Chicago fire. And from that, in 1925, they decided to have Fire Prevention Week. This is a good time to check your fire extinguisher, check your smoke detectors, and that carbon monoxide detector. So check them, make sure your batteries are good, make sure they're working. I wouldn't suggest a fire to see if it's working. I'd suggest you push the button and see if it makes that loud noise. But good time to check them, and if they're not working, replace those batteries.
Final note, we've mentioned a couple times maybe what not to do with your leaves, but here's what you can do with your leaves. There is a place to go if you've got a bunch of leaves that you want to get rid of, and the cost is right. Tell us more, Mayor.
The cost is free. That's always good. So this is at the Maple Grove drop site. It's at 10300 Maple Grove Parkway. You can look that up and find out how to get there. So they'll take branches that aren't real big. They'll take leaves, anything you bring, grass. You have to empty it out and take the black plastic bag home with you. You can't just dump it out there. So it is free. You have to bring your driver's license with to prove you're a resident of either Crystal or New Hope. The other thing, I just remind people, do not rake those leaves in the street. It makes it really hard for the snowplow, and you'll get a ticket for that. And the street sweeper. So don't rake them in the street. Put them in a black paper bag or in those paper bags that you get from Costco. Dump them up there, take the bags back, reuse them.
And again, that Maple Grove Yardway site just off of Maple Grove Parkway. So if you know where the Maple Grove Hospital is, just a little further to the north on the Parkway, right after you cross Highway 610, it is right there. You can't miss it. Well, that's it for a busy week here, and hopefully we've given you a lot of information to move ahead on, or maybe some things that have happened. And stick with us here. We've got a calendar of events that might interest you. Mayor, thanks again for your time. Talk to you again next week.
Have a nice warm week, Dave. Bye-bye.
You too. For more city stories, check out ccxmedia.org or find us on social media.